ladies and gentlemen, this is your host, David Murphy, publisher of the National Black Unity News. I'm here today with Mr. David Simpson, a man who has many talents who are dedicated to the services that he provides. And he has some exciting news that he wants to share with us today that can be life altering for Black people, melanated people all throughout the entire diaspora. But before we get started, I just want to thank this brother because he supported the National Black Unity News on several occasions. And I had the great opportunity to meet him recently at an event here in Baltimore. And like I said, it's an honor and a privilege to meet a brother who had dedicated so much of his time, his life, to uplifting other people, to providing services to a whole host of people. And I just want to welcome you to my podcast, my interview, sir. And it's a privilege. And I mean that in every sense of the word. It's a privilege to serve someone who actually served. And Mr. Simpson, because there's so much more to you and the things that you do. I want you to introduce yourself and let people know who you are and some of the things that you do. And most importantly, why you do them.
All right. Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Murphy, for having me on and welcoming me back. And I just want you to know that when we received that award together, I was in my glee to to receive that award alongside you. Because you've been in the space for a while, doing what you do, and as a newcomer. To the movement or the space of coming together as a bronze skinned people. Um, I wasn't aware at all of your organization and what was going on. That could be somewhat because I lived under a rock called the Remedy Project. But after seeing what you guys were doing and being introduced to that, and I'll talk about that some more. I was able to, yeah, it kind of like light a fire up under me to some of the questions that were being asked. And that's why we're primarily here today for pertaining to the book. But yes, to Mr. Murphy's guest, I am, or I should say to his audience, I am David Simpson, co-founder and co-director of the Remedy Project, and also the founder of the Criminal Justice Realm LLC. So how did I come to be? Well, Mr. Murphy, that is kind of a long story. But I will, give as much as I can. So because one thing that I've understood is that people need more of the background to kind of like get it, right? To understand
Yes.
where I come from and where I'm going, why we are here. And so I was born in the US and grew up in Trinidad and Tobago. I was moved back there with my mom at a very young age. I was still a baby. And so I grew up in Trinidad and Tobago. And around the age of 19, 20, I returned to the United States of America because everyone that I knew that I was an electrician at that time, just finished up becoming an electrician. And most of the guys that I work with, they wanted to come to the United States. They were Trinidadians that wanted to come to the United States. And they'll have all these conversations about how great the United States would be and so on and so forth. And I was like, well, I love Trinidad. Trinidad is nice and it's doing good. And I'm an electrician and I'm working and I'm enjoying life there. And but I was in America. And I was like, so if everybody wants to go to America, you know what? Maybe I should go and see what everybody else is trying to see and trying to acquire because I'm an American citizen. And so I, spoke with family and my mom and was able to make it here to the US. And I started off at Macy's and then I started off doing some electrical work for a small contractor who took advantage of me, you know, um, but I didn't know at the time. And and then I started to move up as my skill, as people start to understand that, okay, yeah, this guy is actually really good at what he does. And I started to move up, get better jobs. I went back home and I married my fiance, and brought her back to the US, and I built. I had an apartment, two kids, a wife, and on the verge of getting my electrical license to where I'll become a licensed electrician and start doing business within New Jersey. I was living in New Jersey at the time. And so I basically had all the equipment to become an electrician, working for a major company. And that was a time when Barack Obama was coming into office around 2006. And there was the decline in the economy. And my job, the factory that I worked in as an electrician, maintenance electrician, was closing down, and they provided me with an opportunity to do some programs, and so that's how I got to start off doing the electrical license and stuff. But so I was off. I was not working, but I was going to school to do that. And while doing that, a childhood friend of mine, who was having some issues, he was a small time weed dealer. Um, uh, was trying, I don't know, well, he didn't smoke crack or cocaine or anything like that himself. So I would perceive that he was trying to purchase some small time drugs, maybe to resell it or whatever, and got arrested doing that. And so he then was deported. While he was incarcerated here, I looked out for him, but I had to take on the burden of his girl and his kid at the time, because
Mm,
when he was taken out of the picture, they were left for the streets. And so his girl and his kid were by me. My wife took care of his daughter and the girl. I allowed her to use my wife's car and one of my phones. I gave her one of my phones because, so that she could communicate well. And unbeknownst to me, they started trying to get involved with a conspiracy to import drugs into the United States of America. And through my introducing them to some other family members that I had, entangled one of the young ones in that conspiracy. And so at the point in time, one day they asked me to go pick up someone at the airport. And I said, well, no problem, because I they used my car. I actually accompanied them when they were taking the person to the airport to go to Trinidad. This person is coming back, and the young family member who was supposed to pick this other lady up at the airport was not available because he had to work. I was aware of that. So I was like, okay, no problem. I know the person's face because I was there when you guys dropped her off. So I'll go pick her up. So I left school an evening and went over there and sat down in the airport. And while this lady, she took very long to come out, but when she did, she started, telling me some things that didn't make any sense about how I'm supposed to pay her and all these kind of things. And so I got on the phone with my friend, my childhood friend from Trinidad, the one who got deported because he bought the drugs. Um, and he's telling me no, nothing. We didn't tell her anything like that. He told me you should just go home and leave her. And I was like, man, you leave this young lady here out here like that? I said that don't sound right. So I called the one, her friend, who's my family member, who was supposed to pick her up, and it's like, this is what he said, leave her. And he said, no, take her home, please. And I was like, okay. And I told her, I said, he said to take you home. And she got in my car. I helped her put her suitcase in my car. Next thing you know, I'm being swarmed by agents.
mm, wow.
Right? I'm being swarmed by ICE agents. And they are, and they arrested us again. They arrested her over. They arrested me over again. And they took us back there, and they straight up explained to me. They said, "Look, listen, we suspect her of trying to smuggle cocaine into the country," and she told us. that it had nothing to do with you. She told us that it was the guy in Trinidad and the young man that you're supposed to take uh, her to. And we want you to uh, help us take him to that young man. Do a sting. We'll get a helicopter and we'll follow you and all these types of things. And he said, and if you do that, we'll make sure that you do a little bit of time in prison. And
Whoa.
I was like, so in my head now, I'm like, no, these dudes, they're tripping, right? Because first thing first, I didn't do nothing. I don't know nothing. And I'm not trying to get involved in anything. And you're talking about you gonna help me do a little bit of time in prison. So I already off the rip. I don't know. This is not this don't make no sense. So that's one strike for me. And then on top of that, I knew that my friend had just got deported. He was still messaging me just weeks before, asking me to send him a little bit of money so he could buy a ticket to go to a concert, right? And I'm like, dude, I'm here helping take care of your as I see her, your wife and your kid, and you calling me and telling me about sending you money for concert. You got to be tripping. So I know this dude don't got no money, and if he's moving any sort of kilo of cocaine, like they suggested, it ain't his. It probably belongs to somebody else who has the means to do such a thing,
Mhm.
and they probably dangerous. And one thing I know is that whoever he's dealing with might not know me personally and or know my family, but he does. And if I am somehow caught, what as we like to say back, snitching or working with these folks, they can attack my family in Trinidad. They wouldn't care about me here. They will attack my family in Trinidad, and he knows where my family, my mom, lived. So I made the conscious decision um, to to tell them no. I'm not going to help them. I'm not going to get involved. Go ahead and do what you got to do. I want a lawyer. I'm not getting involved with this. And those agents, man, they told me, listen, we promise you, you're gonna pay for this. We're gonna make sure you don't see your kids for a really long time.
Oh, wow.
And
Man.
and they upheld their promise, Mr. Murphy. They upheld their promise. So what ended up happening is, and I'll kind of like fill in a little bit of what I learned afterward with what was going on at the time, right? So at the time of when they arrested me, the drugs or so-called drugs that the young lady was supposed to be smuggling into the United States was not even drugs, right? It was lidocaine. It was a painkiller crushed up and they molded it into this bag. And so what I understood was my childhood friend was trying to get in with others who were actually doing this stuff. And he was telling them, look, I could get these bags built too, and I could get people to come and take it back. And so the young lady that they recruited and sent down, that was for that purpose, and the drugs and the painkiller in the bag. Let's not call it drugs, even though the painkiller is a drug. But the painkiller in the bag was them trying to prove to these other folks that they could do this thing. But
Test
apparently
run.
the young
Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. So apparently the young lady was nervous, and that's why they caught on to her and checked the bag and found it. So they knew, and one of the things that I learned after the fact was that they knew that the drugs wasn't real drugs. It wasn't real cocaine. It was lidocaine. Now, after doing some tests, so what does that mean? That means that the young lady that was smuggling the lidocaine, the painkiller, did not commit any crime because she did not smuggle cocaine into the United States of America. So technically, she committed no crime. She should not have been charged. Nothing should have come of that with her. What did they do? They got her a public defender who got her a deal with their prosecutors to admit to lying to um, to the ICE agents. That way, they kept a conviction on her, and they let her go. Me, however, they kept their promise. They decided to, because she didn't commit any crime, they were accusing me of committing a crime or being a part of her crime when I picked her up, because I picked her up at the airport. Now, so if she didn't commit any crime, she didn't smuggle any illegal drugs into the country, then obviously I was not a part of a crime either. So what did they do? They, and I'm throwing my lawyer, my public defender that they gave me, the prosecutors, and everybody up in this, right? They all worked together. It took them about a year to do it. They left me on the street for about a year, and they put together a well lit trial, to where they brought in another individual who actually told them when she was arrested that she cut a deal with the two main guys of the drug conspiracy in Philly, that she worked a deal with them to go to Trinidad and bring some drugs back for them, and that she did it multiple times, up until she was caught. And um, and that what was going, and that's what she originally said, and she was doing, and she was arrested for, and actually awaiting trial and or prosecution for. But because they promised me, that they had to take care of me, right? Because they could have let this go, right? They somehow stumbled upon the fact that my cell phone, which my friend's girl had communications with this lady. So they took that, and they took the fact that my car, which my friend's girl drove when I lent it to her, was at the airport with at one of the times that this lady was there. They took those two things and painted a picture for the jury saying that it was me, and that I was the one who recruited her and was the head guy of this conspiracy to import drugs into the United States. And they allowed this lady to come and change her story. So what they did was they let her out of prison, and she went and to an ex that she had, that was family with my childhood friend. So he knew of me. He didn't know me, but he knew of me because me and this guy, we grew up together. We were pretty close. And so everybody around would know about, on both sides, would know about each other. And that guy turned around and gave her, what he thought was personal information about me. So he thought, so this guy thought that I lived in the same area with the folks in Pennsylvania. So he told them I was from PA. He told her the wrong make and model of my car. He gave her the wrong last name for me. I grew up with a nanny back in Trinidad and Tobago, and their last name was Caesar. And he knew that, right? So he believed that my name was David Caesar. So he told this young lady who didn't know me at all, right? That my name was David Caesar. And she went back to the ICE agents and the feds, the prosecutors, and concocted a story where they changed her whole story from being someone who deliberately got engaged in a drug conspiracy knowingly and willingly, to all of a sudden being someone who was down on her luck and suffering, and returned to Trinidad, and she ran into my best friend down there, and he told her that he could help her out. All she had to do was follow somebody back to the US with drugs, and that she did it one time and it worked, and she came back, the next time, and the next time, my people forced her to bring the drugs themselves, to bring the drugs herself. Me and they tied me to the guy in Pennsylvania, the one of the head guys. So one disappeared. They couldn't catch the one of them, but one they did caught. They did catch him and they did arrested him. And Even he told them this. Even this guy told. Say, I don't know that guy. He said, I know of that guy because he knew my childhood friend. They all grew up in the same area with the woman's boyfriend and everything. So they all knew one another. That was a close knit circle. But I was outside of it. They just knew of me. And this
Hmm.
guy told the prosecutors, say, look, listen, we don't. I don't know this guy. Yeah, I know of him. He has nothing to do with what I'm doing, and whatever the hell they were doing when he got arrested, I had nothing to do with it. I just had to do with this woman as well. But they allowed her, the woman, to change her story and involve me in a conspiracy with him to say, and they told the jury that I was involved and that I was the one that hired her, and we forced her to bring drugs back to the United States when she was arrested. And the jury believed that, and they convicted me, and I was sentenced to 11 years, 3 months in prison, of
Oh,
which of which I did an entire 10 years straight. When Obama passed laws that should have let me out earlier, but they refused. And that's because of who I became. While in prison, I became a guy that literally fought for myself, fought for truth, I fought for my freedom, I fought to try and recoup my name, extensively, right? So I appealed and I challenged everything that they did. I ran into my mentor, Gary Opala, it's a legal mastermind, put together my appeal, um, and it was successful to getting back in front of the judge and so on. But again, they appointed me another lawyer, who this time I had to fight with the dude. I had to fight with him and hold him morally accountable for being a part of what they were doing to me. And it's only then he admitted, okay, you know what? I see that something is seriously wrong here with your case. And I'm going to try to do something. But instead of him, he still shortchanged me because of instead of him bringing my entire, uh, stack of issues to the courts, he hung on to one, which was pretty strong, which is that a case should be overturned and I should be given a new trial if there is proof and or evidence that the only and or main witness was lying. And that is something that we discovered because I don't know if to call this luck or a blessing or whatever. For some reason, uh, they retaliated against me while at a camp in Pennsylvania and decided to ship me all the way across the United States of America to Texas to do my time
whoa,
at a higher
whoa.
facility. At a higher facility, yeah, yeah, I got stories for days, right? They sent me all the way to Texas, away from my family and stuff, because I advocated on behalf of a guy who had brain cancer. I wrote a letter on his behalf. I caused them to spend a lot of money trying to treat this guy, or to identify his issues, and they didn't like that. And they have a history. The prison system retaliates and punishes folks who do stuff like that. And unbeknownst to me, I didn't know what I was getting myself into. I just thought I was doing the right thing, helping this guy out. And next thing you know, yeah, I'm being sent across the country, right? And so I end up in Beaumont with my mentor, and he was the one who explained all of these things to me and what was happening, and and why I was being retaliated against. And he also explained that what happened in my case. But like I was saying, the blessing, or luck, or whatever you want to call it, the main guy from Philadelphia who was the one responsible for the lady who lied on me, who was responsible for her bringing drugs into the United States of America. He was doing his time right there at Boca. So
Whoa.
I ran, so I ran into this guy, and he was able to fill in all the blanks, and he was able to show me his paperwork and what they were doing to him. So what one of the things that they were doing to him, I mean, and they had him they had a person, the other guy, pertaining to him. It seems like they stopped going after that guy, and they focused on me. So it was almost like, Mr. Murphy, like they couldn't see because I denied cooperating with them, which was not a crime anyway, right? It's not a crime to not cooperate. Um, but they were so upset with me with that they stopped going after that guy and focused 100% on me. And they went after this main guy and tried to give him a deal in order so that he could lie on me,
Mm-hmm.
to tie me in as one of the main conspirators in his thing. But he told them over and over that I had nothing to do with it, and he would not budge. For some reason, this guy, a drug dealer or not, he was a stand up guy. He was like, I will never do that to this man. I don't know that man. I'm not going to do it. So what did they do next? They decided, okay, well, if you're not going to do it, we're going to get your girl to do it. So they went to his girl and they told his girl that if she lied, if she testified against me, if she would lie and say that I and corroborate and back up the other woman's story, that I was a part of this drug deal and that I was, doing these things, that they would then give her man a break. So she went back to her man and told him what they offered her, and and he, of course, again shut it down. So, do you know that guy? Why would you do that to that guy? No, we're not going to do any such thing. I'm going to do my time. Yeah. And so, um, I ran into him. He was able to provide me with documents from his record, and he was the one who provided me with the document, that the charging instruments, and the statements of the woman who testified against me when she originally told the truth against him, that him and some other person in Pennsylvania hired her and they cooperated and worked together to do this thing. And he was able to provide me with this stuff. And that's how I was able to file my appeal and all of that. But because of the war on drugs and the mentality slash programming, uh, you know, slash culture that we have here in the United States of America, these folks went along with that lie, man, and put me away and made sure, even with on appeal, when I exposed the lies, they still did everything on appeal, all the way up to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court denied my case. There is precedent cases all over. And when I say they denied it, they denied taking it, right? They didn't address it. They denied taking it. But there are Supreme Court cases, precedent cases that says that if you find someone lying, a main witness lying, telling a false story, that the case should be overturned and it should go back to trial. And if that happens, that person, in my case, will no longer be credible. There will no longer be any evidence against me, and I would be a free man. So they just didn't want me to be free at all. So the appeal court denied and said that the judge who worked with the others to put me away on that, long time, and this was he was known to be an abusive judge. Um, they denied me. And then when I got to the Supreme Court, based on that case, that they had cases, you know, overloaded. They had the main one that we argued was where this guy killed someone he with a murder weapon. They had the murder weapon. They had his fingerprints and stuff on it and everything. So they had good, solid evidence that this man committed the crime, but overturned his case. They ruled that his case should be overturned because the main witness was lying. So, which means this man got a new trial, which he was able to go back to trial and most likely be convicted again because they had more than enough evidence against me.
Wow, man.
The electrician with the family with no history of drugs, drug use, or drug paraphernalia, nothing. They got
Well,
nothing on
let
me
me
when they
stop.
left.
Let me stop you right there. Let me ask you a personal question.
Yeah.
And because they could say, injustice is injustice, but to go through something like that when you're an innocent man, while you was doing all of this time and trying to make appeals, what was going through? How did you actually feel, man, that you was treated this way? And was you so bitter? What was the outcome of your thoughts?
Well, I would say back then, um, the guy who went to prison, he he didn't really know and or understand what was going on. He just knew that a wrong was being done to him
Hmm.
and that he needed to fight in order to reverse this lie because he lost everything. He lost his wife, his wife and kids had to be moved back to to Trinidad because they had no support here. Unfortunately, they would have to go live on food stamps and all that stuff, and go look for public housing and stuff. And my wife then she was a housewife. That's asking her to now step up and be such an important play such an important role was kind of difficult. Having to deal with the loss of me and understanding that she was losing me, and she had the two young kids and so on. So they decided to go back to Trinidad, and so that kind of like freed me up a little bit because now I knew that they were safe because I had my own place in Trinidad, built onto the side of my mom's place, and they were with my mom, and so that freed me up. And so I would say to you that that guy he said he looked around and he said to himself, "Look, listen, I'm in a place where I don't fit in, and a great injustice was done to me, and so I'm gonna do primarily two things. I'm gonna focus and fight for my freedom, and I'm going to study God, the concept of God, the concept of religion, and all these different things. I'm gonna spirituality. I'm gonna get to the bottom of that. And that was the two missions that he took on, trying to free himself to get back to his family and studying, the whole concept of God. And so that's what he was really focused. Remember the racism, the slavery. So I grew up in Trinidad, so I didn't know much about slavery and or the history of slavery and the racism that was happening here in the United States of America, which happened to me. I experienced it. My first boss, electrician. This dude I know now and after while being incarcerated. When I look back, I was like, oh shoot, this guy was, he was racist as hell, because he took advantage of me. He knew this guy hired me. He said, oh, you got experience, yeah, but your experience is from Trinidad. You don't have any experience here in the US. So I'm going to start you working at $6 an hour. Right? And he started me working at $6 an hour, and he put me, and within 1 week, he realized that I was so knowledgeable and so skilled that I was training and teaching all his electricians that he had, except one. He had one main guy, his top electrician, who was I would consider the dude a master, but he was black. He was from the islands and he was undocumented. So that man was paying him $12 an hour. And he was a master. I was a baby to him. And the others that he had on the crew is almost like they were just being born. And I was teaching them and showing them and making them better people. And he realized that within a month time, and he gave me and he realized who I was early on. He trusted me, gave me the keys to his shop. He gave me a keys to a van, and he gave me authority over his other employees. And I worked for him for probably about a year and a half. Uh, for about $6 an hour doing all that work. And when I would go on jobs and people would look at me and other contractors and say, "Man, you so good, man, you good electrician and you well nice. Say you must be making a lot of money." And every time people approach me, I'm like, "God damn, what's a lot of money?" Because I'm still, when I get my paycheck, I still have to struggle to get to work. I
Hmm.
still have to walk distances and and all this stuff. And as I started asking people, what do you think I make? And people start telling me $18 an hour, $22 an hour, $25 an hour. I'm like, God damn, I only make six. And their jaws and the shit would drop. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? And that's and as I caught on over the period of time, I started looking for new jobs and I started bumping up. And, I my next was 12, and then I started getting fairly. Actually, my uh, I would say to I think this is important. My next two bosses were Caucasian, and they did right by me. They did right by me. They became some of my favorite bosses of all time. Yeah, one, I was working at Main Tech Corporation in Newark, New Jersey, in the airport, and the other one was at the factory that I was telling you about that closed down. Those they were Caucasian, but I had two Caucasian bosses, and they looked out. They paid me right. They treat when other folks attacked me, trying to, to put me down or whatever. Yeah, they stepped up and they protected me. So yeah, so I'm not ragging on anyone or putting down any race or anything like that, because I know that they're good people,
That's
and
right.
they're people who choose, and they're people who choose to do bad, right? And so back to where I was at the time. That's what was my main focus and my main fight. And I really didn't know the racism, even though I was experiencing it. Right? I was pulled over driving in New Jersey with my dreads and my Honda Accord drop low with the music. I didn't know that the over 100 times that I was being pulled over was because of racism. I just thought that they looked at me with the dreads and so on as some type of drug dealer or something. They figured, oh, this guy got to be doing drugs or something. And they would constantly pull me over. And when I would check them on it, they would get up mad and upset and write me tickets. And I would always go challenge the tickets. I bet I beat half of them. I probably beat 60% of the tickets they wrote me. Right. But that's what I was accustomed to. It's only when exposed to my mentor, Gary Opala, it's when my eyes were started to be open about the racism, about slavery, and all these different things going on. So my education really happened in prison. And so I didn't have a, so because I was ignorant, I guess I didn't know to be bitter. And I didn't understand what was going on with me. And so I wasn't mad or upset. I just felt like something wrong was done and I needed to challenge it. I needed to reverse it. And I would say that the other primary thing was the fact that I was studying the Creator, the Most High, at
Hmm.
the time. I think that those studies, my deep dive into that and understanding, and my choosing to, when I learned the truth and I understood what I believe to be true about the Creator, that I adapted and that I adjusted and that I conform my ways to what was being presented to me as good and mannerable ways to have.
We will be back after this message.
Dr. David Z. Simpson is a nationally respected justice advocate and strategist who turned the trauma of wrongful incarceration into a life of purpose, service, and impact. After enduring 11 years in federal prison, facing solitary confinement and targeted retaliation for refusing to cooperate with ICE, David emerged not embittered, but deeply committed to protecting others from the injustices he experienced. David also founded the Criminal Justice Realm, TCJR, a justice consultancy and crisis management initiative. Through TCJR, he provides urgent support to individuals impacted by the legal system, offering guidance from indictment through appeal, not just during incarceration. TCJR also partners with organizations, attorneys, government officials, and nonprofits to design effective programs, solve complex legal challenges, and improve advocacy strategies nationwide. Also, in October 2025, David became a published author with the release of The Slavery Mindset. Jim Crow Culture in the United States, a groundbreaking work that examines how historical trauma, systemic oppression, and cultural conditioning continue to shape American institutions and identity. The book offers both a personal narrative and a national call to action, laying the foundation for a broader movement to transform mindsets and dismantle the systems that uphold inequality. As both a mentor and a movement builder, David supports aspiring professionals, legal and non-legal alike, helping them develop the skills, values, and clarity needed to create lasting change. He leads with lived experience, unwavering integrity, and a relentless drive to defend those who are targeted, silenced, or forgotten by the system.
Welcome back.
With any sort of viciousness or trying to punish or hurt others who hurt me was not necessarily the right way to go about it. That would make me a bitter person. And that bitter people are usually unhealthy mentally and physically. So I kind of like understood all these things. Right. And so a combination of what Gary Opala was teaching me about the history and culture and mindset of folks in the United States of America, along with the understanding of the creator, kind of like put me in an excellent position to understand it well and maneuver it well. And so here you have you got Dawood who's doing a different thing, but I have to do it under the name of David Simpson because that is the guy that the crime was committed against, that the offense was committed against.
Yes.
And I think I owe it to him to continue in his name and do as much of reversing of the damage and the hurt in his name as I can. Because when I move on from this chapter, I move on in the name of Dawood. This what I'm doing now, everything we're going to talk about today, and all that what I've done is kind of going to remain in David Simpson's name. But I move on. It's doing something else. So yeah, that's to answer your question of why I'm not bitter and stuff. I hope I did a good job there.
Yes, you did. Very much so. And I appreciate that. Now, you also mentioned to me the other day that because of your unfortunate incident with the penal institutions and the justice system, that you started how would I might say a campaign, so to speak. You mentioned that you not only tried to help yourself, but you tried to help others along the way, and that kind of led up to this what's called the Remedy Project. Can you express a little bit on that?
So I got a couple of things going on. First and foremost, primarily, it's the Remedy Project. The Remedy Project is an organization that I started with a group of students, but one stood out the most, Anna Sugru. We met in 2019 and really got off the ground in 2020 when COVID kicked in. It kind of left everybody with nothing to do. And so I was able to work with and focus with them on building the Remedy Project. And that was built off of my coming out of prison and understanding for the first time that there were actually people who understood that the prison system was a horrible place and that horrible things were going on and that it needed to be changed. But I saw everything that they were doing or most of what they were doing as band-aids, not as addressing the wounds or stopping the hurt, the damage that was being done to individuals. So I decided to collaborate with these youngsters who had passion and a drive to make change. And I explained to them that I used to file these grievance processes or what's called the administrative remedy process within the prison, which legitimizes individuals' claims or issues that they might have, which is an extremely important thing because now their issues could be taken to court, and or you could recruit others now to help address their issues. Because if you don't do that, it's hard for others to help, like for senators and congressmen and so on, who sometimes get involved in a case with a person who's incarcerated. If there is no, if that process, that legitimate process is not used, is extremely hard for them because the prison could just turn around and say, "Hey, yeah, we don't. They never brought it to our attention, so we don't know about it, but we'll take a look and we'll get back to you, Senator." And then they'll probably get back 2, 3 days. Yeah, yeah, we don't know this guy. We don't know what he's talking about. There's nothing here because there's nothing on the record. But when you use the process and you get it on the record, and these folks reach out, yeah, they have to address it. They have to admit that it's there, and they have to work towards it. And so I got really good at utilizing this process for myself and others while incarcerated. And not only that, I became the most um, one of the people to get the most remedies exhausted. That means getting it from the beginning stage to the end stage because it's a highly hindered process. Staff don't like you using it. They retaliate. They hurt you, like physically and mentally
Mm.
and spiritually hurt you for using this process for legitimizing stuff because it makes them look bad. It makes them look like they're not doing their job. It could hinder them from raises. It could hinder them from promotions. And so they would, attack folks for utilizing this process. But I got really good at getting around all the different tricks and hindrances that they would put forth because I studied them. I studied their mentality, why they do what they do, and the incarcerated folks, why they do what they do, and why they operate
Mm.
the way they operate, and the process. And yeah, I was able to do that and get them, And so I kind of like knew the recipe to bring in relief to individuals who are incarcerated, who are suffering in a timely manner. And I devised that after being attacked myself while at the halfway house, while re-entering society, working with these students, I kind of like realized that it could not be an operation that was led and or facilitated by me. It could not be the forefront of it because as long as I deemed a felon or a convict, my word or my credibility to the system is not strong. And
Okay.
I can always be attacked, right? All someone has to do when you're a convicted felon or you're still on probation or something, all they need to do is send somebody around you with a little bit of weed in their pocket. Right? Even though weed became legal in a bunch of states, in the Fed, it's not legal. So somebody could come around me with a little bit of weed in their pocket, and I could be, oh, you violated, and you back in the prison. So it's easy to attack folks who have records, and that's why a lot of them are terrified and run from the system or even anything to do with fighting the system when they come up. So understanding that, I
Mm.
knew that I had to do something different, and these students were passionate, and I believe that if I trained them and taught them to do what I do, then or what I did, that we could build a system and or an operation that would revolutionize the way that people are treated in prisons. And I got together with the students, Anna Sugru and a couple others, Colin and one or two other students. And man, they built that. they
Hmm.
they built
Amen.
that organization. They didn't know what they had no idea what they were doing, but they followed guidance and we sought guidance from others. There were other formerly incarcerated people who were involved who helped us do the LLC and all sorts of stuff and turn it in, file for the 501c3 status. There were other people involved. But they got involved in helping and giving, but they didn't want to be a main part of what was going on because, they didn't have that. People see me as kind of like suicidal, or asking for trouble because I'm building and or doing something that challenges a
Mhm.
federal government agency to hold it accountable, right? So that's like what. So even today,
Yeah.
you got folks who would tell us, "Oh, we love what you do. What you do is amazing. You got to keep going," but they don't want to give us any money on the record because they shake hands and they work with these people. A lot of organizations work hand in hand with these other government agencies, on these slow,
Yes.
methodical ways of trying to change and so on and so forth. But what we are doing is driving and pushing and demanding that change now. And that's what the students do at the Remedy Project. And they do that by putting the individual stuff on the record with the remedies, and then advocating and reaching out to senators and judges and others at higher levels in these agencies to bring attention to those individuals' pain so that they can request that it be changed in an immediate timing. And so that organization there, the Remedy Project, or the remedyproj.org, is my nonprofit organization and the work that I do with those students for that. But then I have my for-profit organization, which and stemming from your from meeting you, and what you had going on, which turned into a book. I was forced to develop my for-profit a little bit more than I wanted to, because I didn't want to do a website. And so that one kind of like began when Uncle Selwyn Jones, George Floyd's uncle, reached out to me. I don't know who told this man about me, but all he says is like, "Listen, man, they told me about you, and I checked you out, and I found out that you're the real deal, and I want to work with you. I want to do things with you." And so he reached out and he joined the Remedy Project's board to show that he was committed to working with us and that he wanted me to work with him also. And we did some work. I helped them get Justice 929 off the ground. So, yeah. And so one of the first things that he did was, all right, you need to be more in the space. You need to meet people. You need to understand what's going on. And so he gave me the link to your weekly meetings on Monday and Tuesday and said, you need to show up here. He says, and when you show up, please just don't sit there and don't say nothing. I said, I want you to speak. He said, they need to hear you. And I showed up, and I listened, and I was like, okay, I see what's going on here. This is not bad. The people are coming together and they're trying something. And I spoke. you know, I spoke up, and you heard me, and you said, look,
Yes, I
listen,
did.
listen.
Loud and
Yeah,
clear. Yes, sir.
yeah,
Yeah, but
and you reached
let
out.
me ask yeah, let me ask you this because, like I say, it just it's I've been in this country all my life. I'm 74 years old, and I heard a lot of horror stories. I actually seen a lot of horror stories, but it's really hard to put my thoughts around what they did to you, to your family. But that now I understand something though, because you was grounded and rooted. You sought a higher power, as some will say. You sought God, and that put you on the even keel. And then from there you were mission driven, and not only for yourself but for others as well. But we talked about a week ago, and I heard the excitement in your voice because you told me that you have something that can change the mindsets of people, not only black, but anybody. But I'm very interested in what this is all about. And I know you just authored a book and you have a new website. Let's jump into that and see what's going on with that.
Yeah. So yeah, and that's basically what I was heading to is I'm saying to you that is attending your program, and I've been listening to people all around me for a while now, and they all talk about the racism, the classism, and all the different problems that we suffer from in the United States of America. And because of the climate that's happening now with the government that's in place now, folks are scared and they're worried, and some are trying to come together and they want to know what to do, what's next, and how do we do it. And I heard these questions at your meeting, and I saw some prominent, I would say, very wise older men there, besides yourself, who answered some of these questions. And what I heard over and over again was the answers to the racism, the classism, and these things, which I believe are all symptoms of the root cause of the problem. And I've heard people touch and or graze on the root cause of the problem. Sometimes you hear a person talk and they'll say, this culture we have here in the United States of America, but that's all you get. Or the mindset of the people to do this and to do that. And that's all you would get. You know, I was like, but that's it. But nobody is articulating it well. And
Mm-hmm.
so one of the things that I had to do because of the climate and the pullback on funding for the Remedy Project and or other nonprofits and so on, I had to start doing something, and I was prepping to do major work with Selwyn, and I needed to explain that problem well in order to attack it, because I understood that now is the time to attack that problem, the mindset, the culture, the
Mm-hmm.
programming of the people that stems from slavery. It all comes from the long fight, the long battle and challenge over the decades with this slavery thing has programmed us and has us locked in a cycle of destruction against one another. Bronze on bronze, or bronze against white, and or class against, you know, class against class, and race against race. When we are all messed up in this fight, tired and burnt out, and trying to figure out what's going on, and we are all fighting the symptoms. And so I said, if I'm going to do this with Uncle Selwyn and another brother that I have on my with us, Ravi Ragbear, prominent immigration guy, I said I need to lay out the foundation. And so what I started doing, um, I started ignoring some of your messages. I'm sorry, because to come back into the program, because I didn't just want to come back and have nothing. So I locked down for about 6 months or so, and I started focusing. And I started off trying to do a manifesto, which would be a 2 to 3 page manifesto explaining the problem, and that we would then challenge and get out there and speak on this. But then, while putting it together, while writing this 3 page manifesto, by the time I started focusing, come out of focus, I was on about 18 to 20 pages. It's like, what? You can't shrink this back to 3 pages. So what are you going to do? There's more I need to explain. You just can't tell people the mindset or the culture. They're not necessarily going to get it. You have to give a little bit more in depth. So it hit me. Okay, this is going to be one of maybe a little magazine or a zine or something like that, or even maybe a book. Okay, I like the idea of a book. If you do a book, you could kill two birds with one stone. You have your manifesto, and you got something that you can sell to bring in a little bit of funds, because
Mm-hmm.
this paycheck to paycheck living thing, because folks don't want to back fund folks who are incarcerated, helping those folks. So you're struggling, so you got to do something. Okay, so the book. Let's do the book. And so I started writing the book. And so I get the message across, and now I'm looking at it and I'm saying, huh, every and anybody could point out a problem and articulate what a problem is if they put their mind and their head to it. But giving a solution with it is a whole nother thing. And so I decided, okay, let me work. What's the solution? Well, the solution here is that everybody got to come together on the same page and acknowledge this problem, acknowledge that this is the root cause of the problem, and say to themselves that I am not going to partake in this problem anymore, and then encourage others to do the same. And so I'm like, this is what needs to happen. People have to admit that there's a problem and sign off on it. You have to give them something to do, right? And so I put a declaration in the book where I say that this is the problem. Do you subscribe to this being a problem and that you want to change it personally and individually, right? And so I said, well, that's how you start, and then you have to come together and get everybody to come together to reverse the lie that is this problem, right? If we don't, we're not going to really succeed, right? In the book, I explain that great leaders like Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, and they had great movements. The Million Man March was a great movement. I also even go to say today, the No Kings movement
Yeah.
is a great movement. But if you ask me, I'm going to tell you that that No Kings movement, even though so many people came out all across this country, it is going to fail, just like the Million Man March and Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, and they did with solving the problem, because they do not attack the root cause of the problem. They're only attacking the symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
And the root cause is the mindset, the culture, the behavior of us here in the United States of destroying one another when we don't like what one another does, or because someone is not in a position that we don't like, or because they're homeless, because they got mental issues, because they got behavioral issues. Whatever an individual's struggle is, we then dehumanize, and or start abusing these individuals, because that's just what we do, right? And if we don't, as individuals, first understand and accept that and stop doing that ourselves, and then require everyone else around us, point it out when we see it, and require everyone else around us to stop doing it, we are never going to solve this problem. We are going to continue to be living, walking, delusional hypocrites in this country, because you reach out and you want Israel to stop destroying human beings in Palestine, but here in the United States of America, you destroy human beings daily for everything. You have a whole institution built and based. Its primary goal is to destroy human beings, right? And we're just simply folks who murdered an individual. So your mass murderers, or your, folks who really hurt individuals. If it were just those you had in the system, you might be able to save some face. But the truth is, it's not just those people you got in your system. You're putting every and anybody in your system, right? In this system that destroys, this system that, sexually assaults individuals, and has people stabbed and murdered. It's a cycle. It's a horrible thing to see. People destroyed, just because they didn't pay their taxes, or just because they stole some money, and you put them in this system that destroys them and their family, right? You don't take care of them, and so you're destroying them, grinding them up on the inside, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. You're destroying them in this prison system, and then you have no choice but to let them go into society. Right? Because many of them are not there long term, and they come out broken, and they come out destroyed. The majority of them. I am a rare exception. There's me and a couple others who have made it out unscathed, but many of us come out with serious issues. And some of us don't show it, but we come out with some serious issues. And and we are hurt and we are trying to make it. And you don't understand that you need to stop destroying the people in the prison system. And that's why the Remedy Project attacking the issues for the individuals, right? And so, and now the book to explain what I am talking about here, to open people's eyes to this problem, that it's our mentality, that it's our culture, that it's our behavior of destruction, of delusion and hypocrisy, right? That we need to stop, change, and reverse. And we cannot do it just individually. We must do it as a people, as a nation, as a community, as a society. If we do not do that, we will go nowhere. Because again, you cannot get tell one nation that it's okay to kill a certain people over here and destroy a certain people over here and support that and give them weapons and tell the other person who you saying is a bad guy on the other side that he needs to stop destroying and or taking advantage of the people that he's doing that he's doing too. How are you going to stop one? How are you going to promote one war that destroys people and then try to stop another war that's destroying people?
Yes. Well, let me ask you this
What,
then. First of all, what is the name of the book? First of all.
okay. So the name of the book is The Slavery Mindset, a Jim Crow culture in the United States. That's the name of the book. It's on my. I built a page for it. Actually, I had to build out my for-profit organization's website in order to host this, because not a lot of people believed or could see the vision, right? So I really had to do it all by myself. But it's now after they're reading the book and they're getting now the vision is it's starting to come together for them. So I had to build out my website, and then I made a page specifically to sell the book on there. And then there's a movement page, so where people who bring the book and sign off against the problem, make the declaration, can go up there and say, hey, I declare that this is a problem and that we're going to stop it. And then I'm going to stop it personally, stop behaving in this way personally, and make a move to change. And what I expect to happen on that movement page is that, thousands and millions of people eventually supposed to sign up against the issue, against the problem. Because if you don't, what you're saying, what you're admitting to, if you do not get on that page and sign up and say that you are for this book and this understanding, what you're saying is you believe it's okay to destroy people because they don't meet certain requirements. You don't think that all humans are human beings and it's okay for you to destroy them.
That's some
And
powerful stuff. Now you just said to me, you said it's with this journey after reading your book, this book, that would alter the mindset, and then wanted to go to the website and make a declaration that I want to be a part of this movement and share the information with this. But then you have those people. I just want to ask you this question. Then you have those people who prosper, who enjoy, who benefits from destruction and hurting people and things like that. And so, how does one, those of us, because it seems like there would be a clash, those who do and those who don't, and so how does this actually? Now I know it will help the individuals out, of course, the way it sounds, because I know the book is on its way. But at the same time, what as people are listening to this conversation, uh, what would be the roadmap far as you're concerned with their personal responsibility, as well as to those who may never see, don't want to see it this way?
well, basically, the book explains that it explains the problem, which is the mindset, the culture, and it breaks it down and exposes how the mindset or the culture shows up in different ways amongst different people at different sectors or different points in life. And so there's a bunch of case studies in there where I show that even, which I know is going to be on one of them is going to be on an unpopular one, which is even the police officers or the ICE officers or federal agents and so folks who um, abuse their authority and hurt people in the process of doing their job, right? That even they are in deep in this programming and or mindset themselves, and
Mm-hmm.
that eventually they are hurt by it also. Not they don't get away from being unscathed, from this mindset. They it hurts them and it damages them also, right? And so I tried my best to point out and show the mindset in operation in most aspects of our community. I give just enough so that people can see it and understand. And if they want more, they'll probably have to ask me for a deeper dive, or they could probably do some of this themselves because at the end of the day, it will be clear. Because one thing is for certain, everybody knows and understands that there's a problem, and we're blaming it on a bunch of different symptoms. But
Mm-hmm.
now you will get it that it's our culture, it's our mindset, it's the way that we behave. And once you get that, you'll be able to say, okay, now all of these things fit together. And what do I do? And how do I influence those who prosper? Well, guess what? Those who prosper are already called in the book. They are addressed in there, right? And they're going to see if they get their hands on the book. They're going to see and have to acknowledge that, oh shit, I've been doing this nonsense. I've been a part of this. And guess what? Everybody else is now aware that I am deep in a
Ah,
mindset
okay.
and a
Okay.
culture of
Mm-hmm.
abuse and hurt and harm. And so, what am I going to do about it? Right? And then, if you have a massive amount of people growing and acknowledging and stepping up and saying, hey, this is not good. We are stepping up and we want to change this and we want to um, move away from this culture and this mindset of destruction because it's no good, because it's no health, it's not healthy. And that number grows into the millions.
Uh-huh.
Eventually, those who benefit would have no choice but to acknowledge and say, hey, it's probably not good for me to continue with this type of behavior that I am condoning for a benefit. Maybe it's smart that I start to change my ways and get involved with the movement because if we want real change, this is what we must do. You must do this as a part. I don't care if you say you want to do it last, which probably you're doing now because you tried everything else and it didn't work. You still got to do it. We all have to come together and push back against this mindset because individuals can't do it. When individuals do it, they get better themselves and they're stuck in a world with the mess going on anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
I call out an individual in the book. I'm not giving as much information here. I want people to go because obviously I want people to go read it. I call out one individual in the book that I've noticed he has a YouTube channel, and many would disagree with his antics or his tactics. But when I first started seeing his videos, I got it. I understood that this man knew and understand that it's our mindset, it's our culture, it's the way that we behave. That's the problem. And he is calling it out daily, daily, daily on his right. But the one thing he's not doing is offering a solution.
We will be back after this message.
The National Black Unity News key strategy is the aggressive pursuit of providing Black business owners and services with the most effective and diverse means of connecting to their target customer, Black people. The National Black Unity News presents information from a variety of sources in a unified way. We focus our attention on the international, national, state, county, city, and local communities. We offer newspapers, business members directories, online podcasting, live networking events, and social and business networking. Our ultimate goal is to furnish businesses with a convenient way to market and advertise their products and services with affordable yet effective results. We also will provide a multitude of services that will educate and inform our consumer base so that they can support Black businesses and services.
The National Black Unity News objective is to provide our Black people a way to enhance their quality of life. We offer services such as consumer protection information. We provide articles, workshops, and seminars to give insight into our Black businesses and services. We will offer a variety of subjects from buying peanut butter to purchasing a home. The bottom line is that we will offer information so that all can have an opportunity to be healthy, wealthy, and wise.
The National Black Unity News is dedicated to providing our participants with result-oriented advertising and marketing support. We are committed to providing products and services that benefit our people. The National Black Unity News is the top circulated Black newspaper in the United States and beyond. We are self-supported and self-sufficient. We do not depend on outside entities to sustain us.
Our focus is to support Black businesses and Black people. We design our services so that they are affordable so that all can participate. Even the most challenging budget, you can participate with us. The bottom line is this: no one is coming to save us but us. God has blessed you with a vision, business, or service, then pick up the phone and call us. Let's talk.
You do not have to carry the full load. Help is here. The time is now. Help us to help you, so that we can help ourselves. The National Black Unity News, a newspaper for you and by you, helping us to help ourselves.
Welcome back.
Not generally take human beings in and spit them out in pristine condition. When a man comes out of prison in the condition that I'm in, like others have, I'm not the only one to come out unscathed and or to come out a better person. The prison itself, or going to prison itself, is not the root cause of his success or his change. What is the root cause of it is the individual's determination or decision to do something positive with their life, to fight against the destruction, the pain, and the suffering that's brought to them daily, to try and avoid it, to try and survive. You go to prison and you're in a fight for survival. And while you're in that fight for survival, what you choose to do is going to determine who comes out and what you're capable of doing when you come out. And so my journey happened in there. And basically, like I said, David Simpson, the guy that went into prison, he did not return. Who came out was Daoud, using the same first name, but in the Hebrew, he has a different personality, or I should say I have a different personality, because you're talking to Daoud now, right? And my personality is highly spiritual. I would go as far as to say it is extreme, because those who really understand the Most High and the requirements of the Creator, if you believe those books, the Torah and the prophets, if you believe in them and you see them as good, as right, as just, you understand that you cannot live and operate as you please. You have to live and operate and build your life and structure your life around the the will of the Most High. And so that requires you to operate and behave in a certain way. And so I cannot or could not, because of my change, and let's call it, to be a little bit scriptural, being born again, for those who would understand that, I cannot come out and behave and or act as everyone else, because then I would be a hypocrite, just like most people who try to fool people with that. There's a lot of people, right? I faced that a lot of times. There are people who go to prison and all of a sudden find God, right? And they're the best Christians and the best walk and all of this stuff. And they're in God so much and they love God so much, and God is talking to them. And when you pay attention to their behavior and their actions, they're doing some stuff that is an abomination, and or it's not in a line with that God that you're saying that you're involved with, in what he requires or expects from you. And so if you do, yeah, if individuals do not stick with or believe 100% in the change or the development that they're making in their life, this is what happens. You develop a pattern of behaving in a godly or good way for show, but in your heart and in your mind, you are not there, and you're still doing the bad behaviors. And so this is one of the things that I'm pointing out in the book, where we have to check ourselves, because, for instance, we would say that we want to abolish prisons, right? So they're prison abolitionists. That's what they call themselves, prison abolitionists, right? And they are, let's get rid of the prisons. We want prisons gone. We want, we don't want any more prisons. And in the same breath, the current president of the United States is accused of something. And the first thing that's going to come out of their mouth, oh, we need to lock him away forever and throw away the key. Right? Don't you want the prisons abolished? Right? Can't be hypocritical, right? And so I would tell you that my journey with the Creator, understanding and adjusting while in prison, the change that happened there, is what made me the man who I am today. And so wow. today I am not functioning, or I am not doing much reflecting or healing, because I am healed. I did that already. I did the reflection. I did the healing already. What I'm doing today is more so learning and understanding more, and trying to understand what individuals go through and how to help them. Because I believe that is more important. And I want to do things to help people get forward. I don't want to do everything for people. One of the things, let me make this clear. I don't want to lead this movement. I just want to be the spark. I just want to be the individual, just like I did with the Remedy Project. I gave these individuals an idea and a roadmap, and they built it out. They built the Remedy Project, and it's an awesome organization. And all it needs is funding, and it will do amazing things. I think it's the same thing with this mindset. There are already movements going on. The No Kings movement and all other the organizations where people are fighting for better treatment and places for homeless people, better dealing with mental health and so on. There are movements and there are people doing the right thing, but they're just not going to succeed on any great level unless we start teaching ourselves and everybody else that it's okay to have an issue, to have a shortcoming. That does not mean that myself or anybody else should abuse you or destroy you or hurt you or put you in prison for benefit or try to build businesses off you so that they could them and their families could succeed and you continue to suffer and wonder what's going on, right? I don't have to do those reflections. I kind of like already did it. My thing here now is to point out what I see from the work that I've done and hope that others can pick it up and move forward with it. Because I don't personally, I don't really want to be the one to. It's a lot of work and it's a lot of
Well,
time, and I think that
David,
I've given a lot out already.
let me ask you this, problem. Is this now? I have a strong sense that I can say because you made a choice.
Mhm.
You reasoned with yourself, your situation, and you sought answers. And here you are, fast forward to this day and time. You had
Mhm.
studied individuals, you had helped individuals. You look at the climate of the day, you look at individuals as you look at yourself. The situation not only in you, the trickle, the trickle down effect that it has on other people. Like I say, what happened to you went all the way to your family, to your children, your loved ones. That decision that person made to come after you, has it hurts a lot of other people. And in my own case, because I lived the life of, I'm 74, I lived the life of discrimination, which you was not aware of because where you come from. But my whole life was just, my father was an educated man. And he had 2.5 years of college back in the 40s or something. But yet they had him cleaning out toilet because they looked at his skin and said he was less than. And he
Mhm.
took it out on himself because mentally he couldn't handle it. And so he ended up drinking and he lost a lot of stuff. But and as a child, I've witnessed what happened to him. So my mindset is already hurt because what has happened, something I had nothing to do with. But then I experienced it myself because of the climate that I came up in.
Yeah.
They had books that they taught us in school. There was no one in those books that even looked like me. The book that I read from, that they taught me how to read from. The people who had and the people who did not have was totally different. The TV, I mean, the whole climate was a black and a white situation. And I lived it. I stood at counters where they wouldn't wait on me. Yes, and I became bitter, but I turned it in internally. I blame myself. Why am I this? Because I blame God, who some may call God. Why would you allow children or people to go through this because of other people's thoughts? But then as I got older, wisdom began to set in. That's why I kept saying I think a little deep. I question myself about this, about that. And to make a long story, what I'm saying to you is this: because I dealt with myself and I looked at myself from a whole lot of different angles. And I come to the conclusion that I'm always a student because I'm always willing to learn more, dig a little deeper, and I do have a sense of responsibility for my fellow man. And I do believe that men, we all make decisions and make choices, but because we were taught this way and because our environment was this way, we follow those patterns. But until someone, not just talking about it, because like you say, when people speak with forked tongues, as they say, they say this one day and they act another way this way. But I heard you say that earlier. But then it comes to a time when reality really sets in. When you take a real look at yourself, and I believe I understand what you're saying is because when you take a real deep dive into yourself, into the situation of man, and the thought pattern that we have, framed our lives around, and it's not good. And there's those books, like you say, the Torah, the Bible, the Quran, and everything. They had these great principles. But man himself, for example, it hurt me one time. I was seeking God, or God was seeking me. And this deacon said something, and it's written in certain ways. They say, even my best efforts, I don't care how hard I try, I'm like filthy rags.
Mhm.
And then that does something to you. Here you seek and you want to do right. and even in your best, you ain't nothing but a filthy rag. That does something to your mindset. And then why do this that if I ain't no good? That kind of that kind of self taught talk or what you was taught. And if anybody, I always had this saying that I'm always a student. I'm always willing to learn more. And I am so looking forward to your book because the way you expressed it to me personally, it will change the mindset. And once the mindset changes, things change. And the people dig a little bit, open their mindset to be open to these such suggestions. Look deep into your book. And so I'm already committed to read the book. I'm already committed to support it because I do believe that we have the power to change. And like you said, if enough of us change, things can really take place. And so, brother, I really want to commend you and please accept my apology the way the system has treated you. Because if men had not stand up yesterday and the day before yesterday, and they don't stand up today as well as tomorrow, these type of atrocities will continue to go on. But then there's people like yourself who say, I'm willing to take a stand. Not to show myself. You always say, I don't want to know, but you say, but I want to make a point though. Mm. That can, and if you do believe in a higher power God, and if you really believe that how powerful God is making, he don't make mistakes. He made us, in his image, and that's a powerful image to be made in. But when a man can believe, really believe that change can take place and he can make a difference. And you're doing that with this book. You're attempting to do that with the book. Your mind is already made. You wouldn't have went this far to write the book. And so I'm suggesting to you, brother, like I said, I'm looking forward to, reading the book, working with you on it, because I'm on the side of that. I do believe, because I've changed over the years. My mindset has changed multitude of times. And I'm still seeking that change for betterment, for my children and my children's sake, and for a better world for them. And I'm so appreciative of brothers like yourself, man, who are willing to take a stand, who took a stand. Yeah. You could have chose to go that way, you could have chosen went that way, but you chose to you took the higher ground. And because of that journey, brother, I just want to say to you, man, I appreciate you. Again, I'm looking forward to it. So, before we part, because we're going to condense this to a certain point, but anything you would like to share with us about you, your projects, the book, anything, you got it from here.
Okay, yeah. As far as the Remedy Project goes, the Remedy proj.org. I would say go to the website. I would say that we need to stop destroying people within the federal prisons and or prisons within the United States of America. But the Remedy Project focuses at the point in time on the federal prisons because that's where my experience was. But we can duplicate and build for the states. The Remedy Project's number one issue is we don't get enough funding support, and we need that. And once we do that, we could add some more folks to the organization, which will then boost the kind of outcome and the work that we do tenfold. I think that we need to do that, and I think if people look at our website and I have one or two pictures in the book because I feature the Remedy Project in the book because the Remedy Project folks have the right mindset. I want them to pay attention to the individuals who are around me, who are fighting and or pushing for the humanity of people in prison. You will see that those who suffer the most are not with me showing up in these pictures and or in this movement the most, and that needs to change. And even though I can make an excuse or an argument for them that they are constantly suffering and or constantly being attacked or from and or by the mindset, so have I, and so are many others. and they still step up and do what needs to be done. And so I think that signing up to this book and making this declaration is an easy thing for folks to do, and getting behind and or supporting the Remedy Project, the students at the Remedy Project in the work that they do, especially financially, is extremely important. I promise you that, there's going to be a lot of people that I take on in the Remedy Project to do work. I'm going to hire a couple of people first before I give myself the raise that is due, right? I've been shorting myself for, the past 5, 6 years, right? So, I'm an electrician. The last I checked, for the past 2 years, my electrical salary would be over $100,000 based on my skill level and the companies that I was working with, the direction where I was going. And I don't make anywhere close to that. I live paycheck to paycheck, fighting and doing this work. And I would like a break. I would like to take my first vacation within 5 years. I have not taken a vacation yet because I've always said to myself, get this stuff done, get it done, get the word out there, make sure this is operating and functioning properly, and then you could take a break. And so that's been my mindset. And I really and truly would appreciate our communities, the bronze skinned people of the world. I would appreciate your help. A lot of you have money and talk a good talk, and about you for this and you for that, and you want to do this and you help the community, and you want people to stop doing this and stop doing that, but we won't step up and support real, good, foundational, true organizational movement for real change and real humanity right here in the United States of America. We need to cut that out. And, we need to get involved. I did not build the Remedy Project as an organization for myself to run. No, I built it. It's built and designed for me to teach and help others on how to do it, and for me to then step out of the way and let people take care of the problems in the United States of America themselves, right? And so, that's me pleading for and asking for the help of the citizens, because what we are doing to people in the prisons in the United States of America is really, really horrible. We literally send people to prison knowing that they're going to be raped and abused and all these things. We know. We got a whole prison where women were taken advantage of. They so much to that they had to close the prison down. All right, we know this, but yet we still send women to prison because they were shoplifting or to hold. Let's find other ways to hold people accountable. There are other ways to hold people accountable and to help people with their behavioral problems or their issues. There are other ways to do this. We don't have to enslave people and destroy them, right? And so that's the work with the Remedy Project. I would send people to the website. I think it's the easiest thing to do. We have a bunch of different social medias. I think they just launched a podcast, but all of these things you'll find on the website. And as the criminal justice realm goes, my for-profit organization, I present myself as a crisis manager, or an advocate for those who have issues with the justice system, and or for organizations and or companies and or the government. Some will think that I'm not interested in working with the government. I'm not interested in playing footsie with you. But if you want to make real change as the government, if you want, to stop the destruction that these prisons are doing to individuals and other bad things that are happening within the justice system, I will work with you. But it must be to make real substantive change. It must not be the same old, let's pretend or let's give a little bit here and allow people to still be destroyed. I'm going to ignore you. But if you want real substantive change, folks can reach out on to me on that organization. And we don't get donations and or grants over there, so folks have to pay for our assistance, and we will help you develop and or advocate for folks who are incarcerated or who are dealing with the system, whatever the mission. As a matter of fact, I took on early on. I took on a case where this was not a justice thing. It was a situation where I took on a crisis where I had to go rescue a young lady from the streets. While I was on probation, I was out there. This young lady, she had a mental break, and she was out there on the streets, moving from place to place. And her family was able to get her in contact with me, and I spoke to her and I started to mentor her and I followed her and I had to chase her around. And eventually, within 6 months, I was able to convince her to come off the streets. And now she's back with her family and doing well. So I say all of that to say that my organization and myself, we do real good things, positive things, and that's what we want to do, and that's what we want to continue to do. And anybody who is interested in doing so, and or has a project or something that they want, can go to the criminal, it's just criminal justice realm, REALM.com, and and request our assistance. We'll take a look, and if we could help you, we would. And then you have the book, which is the number one reason why we're here. Um, you know, I would say the goal here is to purchase the book, get an understanding of what the root cause of the problem are. Most of you will get it very, very quickly because you've been fighting and pushing back against the system for a long time. The book is going to expose and open your eyes and your mind up very, very quickly to the root cause of the problem. You take the declaration, you take the challenges. You either bring in three people or you try to spread the word as much as you can. That's the second challenge. Because without everybody on board, society has to be on board with this mission because it's society's mindset and or culture that must change. Individuals alone can't do. And so I built you a movement page. You sign up so that people can see the mindset, see people wanting to change, see people acknowledging that individuals were not born to be destroyed, right? And so it will put all human beings back on a level playing field if everyone acknowledges. The more of us acknowledge that, the more we will make people who suffer from depression and all other sorts of issues understand that they just have an issue, but that does not make them less of a human or less worthy. You sign up and take that declaration, you sign up on that page, let people see the change, let people see the movement, and then join. On top of that, what you then do next is not call on me to lead the next charge. No, I will give advice and I will support you. What you do next is actual leaders who've been playing footsie with the opposite side and or not being honest and just in their actions or in their movements to make that change within themselves and then use that to teach and make that change in others and push forth to make great change within the United States of America. All the things that I do on my website, criminaljusticerealm.com. And if you want to make a change and stop destroying people within the prison system, if you want your president and other world leaders to believe you as a nation, that you don't want wars or that you don't like people being destroyed, then fund the Remedy Project. Let's stop destroying people within our prison system. And and then maybe the rest of the world will believe you. And that's what I got for the people. I already know that most are not going to like me. I'm accustomed to it. But it is what it is. I tell the truth. I can do nothing but tell the truth. So help me out. So folks, and Mr. Murphy, I truly appreciate you for having me on and exposing me to your community. And I hope to no longer ignore your messages to come in and join your groups again on Mondays and Tuesdays because now, I got something. My foundation is laid. Now I can, when I stand and I speak and I say what I say, people will get it. Right. So, So thank you very much for having me. Thank you for doing what you've been doing for many years. And thank you for joining the movement.
Okay, well, I'm gonna tell you this. The doors are open to you, always will be, and we will help provide a platform to share more information with us. And so I'm looking forward to working with you, for you, and for the people. And thank you for taking time out to be with me this afternoon. And I look forward to when we circulate this information because if we just help one person along the way, we have reached an objective. But when we reach a massive amount of people, that's when change will take place. I believe that, and I truly appreciate that God has used you in this capacity to help us so that we can help ourselves. So I'm going to say good evening to you, sir, and looking forward to working with you and for you. God bless. Take care.